Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the lunch table. First off, just want to say sorry for not uploading last week. Uh, Me and Alan both had to, we had our happy holidays, as we all wish everybody else had a great happy holidays and hopefully a great Christmas or whatever holiday you celebrate. But in fact of all that, we did have a pretty eventful past week and a half of sports that have been going on. A lot of news coming out of the DMV area, especially with the Washington football team. But we'll talk about that later. Right now, we are going to talk about the Washington football team versus the Panthers game. And well, personally, I think it was an okay game. I mean, it was basically just a beatdown on our offense and our defense, like I've been saying before. Our offense does 3 and outs, defense goes back out, and our defense just gets tired way too quickly. But they somehow stop them at the second half without giving up any points, and our offense finally got together with Tyler. Is it Henneke? Alan?
Yes, Tyler Henneke. He's a 27-year-old, and he was an undrafted free agent out of Old Dominion.
Yeah, it's 2020 in its rightful spirit.
He looked really good though.
Yeah, he did. That pass.
He had like three. He had like 3 touchdowns called back on penalties. It was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, he looked very well. Our defense was also looking very sharp in the second half. I guess, Alan, any last ideas on the game or feelings?
All right. So I just wanted to point out, Chase Young was PFF's Defensive Player of the Week with a grade of 93.7, which was 10 points higher than any grade he's received all year. And you could see it. He forced the interception to Cameron Curl, strip sack. Yeah, like the defense did pretty well. Held him to 14 points. Steven Sims had to muff a punt, which is like, how is he still as a punt returner? He needs to just be the slot receiver. Mm-hmm. I don't know how. Considering everything that happened, Ben knew I really supported Haskins. I tried everything to support him. And then that was the worst game of his entire career. That is not the week you need to have the worst game of your career. And it was just, well, we'll talk more about Haskins later in the show. So we're going to move off to the NFC playoff picture. And it's frankly pretty simple. If Washington wins their game against the Eagles, they're in, and the Eagles have already been eliminated from playoff contention. And if they lose, the winner of the Dallas Giants game are in the playoffs, hosting a playoff game, I believe, against the Bucks right now.
Yeah, I mean, you said it. I think, and I hope that we get a win against the Eagles, because I don't even think Eagles fans want Dallas to get into the playoffs, nor the Giants. So I'm hoping we get this win and we move on with our season and hopefully make a surprise in the playoffs, because everybody's dying us out. But, I think
Bucks are a hard team, though. They are talented. Their third string receiver is Antonio Brown.
Yeah. Hopefully Tom Brady.
Our corners are not that good.
Yeah, hopefully Tom Brady can forget what down it is, and we'll we'll win through that. But moving on with the next game, the New York Jets decided to win a second game against, out of all teams, probably one of the hotter teams in the NFL, Cleveland. It was a pretty big shock. I mean, the Jets, they were projected, everybody was tanking for Trevor Lawrence and whatnot, and it was just it was kind of shocking in my opinion, because I was like, hang on, how are the Jets being the Browns? This doesn't seem right. And now that they officially do not have the first overall pick, the Jaguars snagged, which that means they get Trevor Lawrence, and the Jets fan base and probably the front office is probably like, well, who are we going for next? Do we go for Justin Fields? Do we go for help on our line? Do we do something? But yeah, Alan, you got an opinion?
I think it's impressive the Jets have continued to win. I don't think we've seen enough from Sam Darnold. So if the Jets are sitting there at number 2 and they don't plan on drafting a quarterback, I think you have to trade out. I think this might be another very similar to 2012, where a team trades out of number 2, but a team drafts the once in a generation prospect with Trevor Lawrence back to Andrew Luck in 2012. I am personally hoping that it's a exact repeat, and the team that's trading up to number 2 is Washington. But
who we trade? We'd have to trade a
Zach,
lot probably to get up there.
I don't care. I don't want Matthew Stafford, which a lot of Washington fans are trying to say we should get. No, please no. All right, but back to actual Jets. Cleveland was missing all of their receivers except I think one, and they still threw the ball 50 times. So that's dumb. They should have kept on running the ball. I know they're against the Jets, and the Jets have Quentin Williams, who's really good, and they were missing some key offensive linemen, but you still have Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb. Like, that's your strength as a team. I don't know. The Browns now have to try to fight in the last week to get a playoff spot, which we thought was guaranteed a couple weeks ago. So it's kind of ridiculous. The team moving on, that is going to make that significantly harder for the Browns, is the Steelers versus the Colts. And the Colts ran out to a huge lead early on and could not keep it. Ben, you want to talk about it?
I mean, the Steelers, I guess, had a little bit of fire in them, and they decided to come back and, win a game behind. And, I mean, the Colts offense didn't really produce anything after the first half. And, I mean, the Steelers defense locked it down. The Steelers offense was doing pretty good, and props to them. They clinched the AFC North, and that's...
Oh, did they officially clinch it with that win?
Yep. They're... Because if they would have lost and the Browns would have won, that came to a Week 17 matchup on who's going to win the...
Steelers and Browns next week, right? For that?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
But you'll probably see a whole bunch of Steelers sitting out for the playoffs. That's what I would think. Moving on to the next game, which was actually last night's game. This is being filmed on Tuesday, so Monday night game, Buffalo versus Patriots, and it was a great game for Buffalo, not a good game for Patriots fans and the Patriots team. I mean, Josh Allen really took a huge jump this year. I mean, if you want to go back, he definitely is in conversation for MVP. Do I think he'll win MVP? Probably not. But, I mean, he went crazy with all his wide receiving depth. Clearly, the trade for Stephon Diggs really helped them out. And, Alan, you got anything else on this game?
I think, one, we should congratulate Josh Allen on his jump, but it's clearly also a coaching thing and the general manager coming in and getting him Stephon Diggs. Because I think for every quarterback, you're gonna play better if you get if you get a top receiver other than Deshaun Watson. Deshaun's playing his best football of his entire year, but he's on the Texans. So,
right.
Yeah, I think I really think they could run on a Super Bowl run if Patrick Mahomes has a bad game. I don't know if that'll happen in the playoffs or happen bad enough that he won't be able to come back, but I think if you were to rate them, I think they'd be like the second team probably in the NFL behind the Chiefs. And then I have the Packers at third, who I think have the chance to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I think the Buffalo is the Chiefs' biggest competitor in the playoffs. But also, you got to look at the Patriots side on what they're going to do. Like what you said, the Jets could possibly trade the second pick. I mean, could the Patriots try and make a jump for that? Because, I mean, the Patriots obviously, Cam Newton isn't their franchise quarterback or the quarterback that they thought could be like the next Tom Brady and could lead them into the playoffs. Clearly that did not work out. And I think the Patriots really have some thinking to do because, I mean, I don't think Jared Stidham's their franchise quarterback either. And it's going to be a crazy offseason, especially in the quarterback market.
I hope also that it's more of a calming offseason with hopefully COVID starting to come back, because I think what a lot of people forget is the Patriots lost basically everyone influential on their defense to COVID opt-outs. So I don't know how much I take away from some of the seasons, especially with teams that are hit hard with opt-outs. The Patriots, I don't know. Patriots don't seem like a team that ever would trade up. I think even where they're standing, I think they're like 18th now in draft standings. I think even if they took a quarterback there, I think they'd do fine. Bill Belichick is still pretty good.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to move on to a game that was semi-boring, the Ravens versus the Giants. And Lamar Jackson going against ear superior. What is the word? Basically, Ravens are pretty good when they get to run the ball, and they were dominating all game.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, Giants obviously did not come out as they should have, and the Ravens won, which was good, so they could keep their playoff hopes alive, and they're going to continue fighting for that playoff spot. I really have nothing else on the Ravens versus Giants game personally.
Other than the Ravens might not make the playoffs because of how deep the AFC is, which is sad.
Yeah, I agree with you. Now, probably looking at our most testy subject and probably the subject that you guys will hear us talk about probably the most out of this podcast, Dwayne Haskins, the saga has come to an end in Washington, and I'm predicting probably in the NFL. Dwayne Haskins was released on Monday. Ron Rivera basically went up to Daniel Snyder and said, "Hey, I don't want him on my team. Can we release him?" Snyder said, "Go ahead." Ron Rivera was released. Personally, I think Dwayne Haskins needs to go somewhere, like just by himself, just to reflect on what happened. I mean, clearly the on the field problems were, effective and were obviously seen, but I think us fans do not know exactly what could have happened, like in the locker room, what was going on in the training facility, one-on-one with coaches. And I also think what Washington needs to figure out is what are they going to do with the quarterback situation? Because I think I saw a thing, it was like since 2010, I think we've drafted like 5 different quarterbacks. Or like we've had 5 different quarterbacks. And clearly
only 5? That
maybe
seems
more.
low.
Maybe 10, 15 maybe.
We had like 8 the last 2 years, so
yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
So, I mean, it's just clearly we need to figure out who's going to be our quarterback. And Dwayne Haskins, hopefully, he comes back into the NFL and does things and lives up to the hype that was once predicted or that was once said. And yeah, I mean, it's kind of sad. It's very sad. Alan?
I really wasn't looking forward to this happening. I was kind of blindsided in a sense. I didn't think it would happen until the offseason. But in a way, I'm ready to not have to worry about the drama of my quarterback, who's a third string quarterback now, just doing dumb stuff and continuing to mess with the team. And he just wasn't good. Like his play on the field, considering when I think it was Taylor Heineke came in, played better than Dwayne Haskins, I think, has played in his entire career. Really shows a lot. It was just this guy is an undrafted free agent, came in is playing better than a 15th overall pick ever did. I think cut. And apparently before, Rivera wanted to cut him before the Carolina game, but was persuaded out. Which you hear lots of things about a player after they've been cut. Like you hear all the worst things, like no one ever wanted to draft him. But I'm like, yeah, you're always going to hear these things after a player's gone. You never hear these things at the time. So I wouldn't take too much into always people like downgrading his character. But I do wish him the best wherever he goes. Just it's not going to be with Washington.
Yeah, I think also what you got to look at is when he was drafted, Snyder took over the drafting part and doing what Snyder does best. He looks at the big name market, big name guy, and says, "I want him," and goes out and picks him, signs him to a ridiculously amount of money, or picks him with our first round pick. And either they do great, and Snyder proves us all wrong, which I don't think has been has not been effective lately, or they become a bust. I mean, you can look at Josh Norman if you really want to look at that. I mean, ever since when he was with us, he was okay at best. And yeah, I mean, it's sad. It's sad for Haskins. And yeah, well, I guess good luck wherever you go.
I mean, also I saw the point where they were saying Washington's front office, they were saying that the last 10 first round picks hit on basically everyone but the 2 quarterbacks, RG3, Josh Doxson, and then Dwayne Haskins. They're like, Other than that, basically Washington hits on like all of their first round picks. So if we can develop that success into any sort of quarterback, we'll be fine. But talking of draft, we are going to look towards the draft, and the current draft order is, give me a second, Jacksonville at 1. They have clinched it, so there is nothing that can happen to that. Jets at 2. I'm pretty sure they've clinched that as well. And then Houston is at number 3, but that pick was traded in the Laramie Tunsil trade to Miami. So Miami has a top 3 pick, and they're still fighting for the playoffs. Atlanta at 4, Cincinnati at 5, Philadelphia at 6, Detroit at 7, Giants at 8, Carolina at 9, Denver at 10.
Yeah.
So I think the most interesting thing that happens every draft season is who's going after quarterbacks. Ben, what do you think about how the quarterbacks are going to fall out?
I think that Jacksonville's definitely going to take Trevor Lawrence. I would be surprised if I think it would actually shock everybody that's a football fan that Trevor Lawrence does not go number 1. He'll probably go number 1. Maybe the Jets trade it like you said, or they attack somewhere else because I mean Sam Darnold has the last couple of weeks he's been doing pretty good. And maybe he'll improve. I could see like Zach Wilson and a whole bunch of other quarterbacks falling maybe until later rounds because I don't think some of those teams really need a quarterback as much, or like the quarterback situation isn't as big. I mean, maybe Denver, have Drew Lock out a little bit of competition. Carolina maybe with Teddy Bridgewater, but I could also see Miami trading the 3rd pick. Personally, I could see them trading it and maybe trying to get one more impactful player for their team, which I think would be huge for them. And yeah, that's what I think. How about you, Alan?
I think it's entirely possible we get Trevor Lawrence 1, Zach Wilson 2, Justin Fields 3, Trey Lance 4, and then Mac Jones 5. I think it's entirely possible. I don't know necessarily if it's all the same teams, but basically Cincinnati is the only team here that doesn't need a quarterback really. Matt Ryan's not playing well. Miami, Tua's all right, but if I'm sitting there and like Justin Fields is there, I might take a shot at Justin Fields, or maybe the Jets and Miami trade away their picks. But I could very well see a possibility with other than Cincinnati quarterbacks going in the 4 quarterbacks going with the first 4 picks.
Yeah, I think also you gotta look at Miami's situation. Also, I mean, look at the past game. Tua, got called out, and then Ryan Fitzpatrick had to go in and fix his issue. So it's gonna be a pretty crazy draft, but we'll probably hear more about that in the coming, days of the draft actually happening. But we're gonna do a quick little switch around on sports wise. I'm be talking about baseball for just a quick little second. Really this week, a lot of news has been coming out of San Diego. San Diego has obviously the past couple of years has not been doing as well as they would projected. And well, I mean, it's really coming out now. They traded for Yu Darvish, who was this year for Cy Young second, and Blake Snell, who actually was a Cy Young in 2018, I believe, 2018. And they had to give up a whole bunch of prospects, but they're getting a almost Cy Young and a Cy Young coming out of that. And I think if you're a Cubs fan and Rays fan, you're probably like, well, what the hell just happened? The Rays were just in the playoffs, and the Cubs still are always basically saying that they want to make a playoff push. So the NL West is looking very scary, where you got the Dodgers, who just won the World Series, and you got San Diego basically right up their tail, basically saying, hey, we got a team of our own with Manny Machado, Fernando Tatis. Our pitching staff's looking really well. It's gonna be something to look forward to in Major League Baseball. That's really been it. I mean, it's been a pretty boring week for baseball wise. Alan?
All right, so we're going to move on to the NBA now, which we also don't have a ton, but Mavericks blew out the Clippers with Kawhi going down with an injury, apparently. I wasn't able to catch the game, but I was checking some of the scores, and I think it was like 70 in the first half by the Mavericks, and the Clippers had scored like 30 points. And looking at the stat line for that game, it just looks like no one really scored for the Clippers. It wasn't even like a specific person went off for the Mavericks. They had a pretty overall team, and it's just like only 3 guys scored over 10 points for the Clippers, with Paul George being the highest at 15. So definitely losing Kawhi hurt there.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of a situation where the Clippers need Kawhi, and Paul George isn't just the one person that they need. They need someone else. And the other LA team, the Lakers, they're looking pretty sharp. Personally, I mean, LeBron James in year 18 still doing things that he's been doing his entire career. Anthony Davis doing things. Their team is a lot stronger, I personally think, than last year, and I think they're still definitely probably going to be the first. They're definitely going to win the championship. That's what I'm trying to say. That I think they're the front runners to win it.
Yeah, that would make most sense to me. And in other news, we have Ja Morant went down with I believe there's some sort of ankle injury.
Yeah,
but
he
MRI came back and said it wasn't a fracture, so that's good news.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Kawhi obviously he got hit he got smacked in the face or something like that, and he was bleeding a lot from his face. And prayers to both of them to hopefully be back. And in other local professional sports news, Russell Westbrook, who was recently acquired from the Rockets and is now on the Wizards, has had for his first 2 games back-to-back doubles, but the Wizards for some reason couldn't still get a dub. But I think they recently just won a game. Maybe I'm wrong, but either way, hopefully the Wizards and Bradley Beal and Russell Westbrook can get together and win a championship or make it somewhere in the playoffs.
Yeah, and speaking of the playoffs, we're going to move over to college football. We have number 1 Alabama versus number 4 Notre Dame, and then we have number 2 Clemson versus number 3 Ohio State. So we're going to go over our Alabama predictions versus Notre Dame. And my predictions are 55-21 Alabama. Ben, what are yours?
Mine's 35-28 Alabama. You're really giving no hope to Notre Dame, aren't you?
No. They're not stopping Devontae Smith or Najee Harris. I don't see it happening. Alabama has 3 of the top 5 guys in Heisman voting. I do not think Notre Dame has a chance.
Well, I'm giving them a chance, and I'm giving them a possibility.
And I'm telling you, you're going to be wrong, so it's fine.
Well, I'm going to give them a chance, personally. I think that they maybe Notre Dame. Okay, if Notre Dame shocks us all, will you be surprised at all?
If Notre Dame can keep Alabama below 40 points, I don't think they have a chance to win still. So, yes, I'd be extremely surprised because I don't think Notre Dame's going to score past 30 on Alabama. And Alabama's averaging 45 points a game, I think, or something ridiculous. So I'd be extremely surprised if Notre Dame wins. And probably the biggest shock in sports for a while for me if that happens.
Yeah, well, they beat Clemson once. Now, granted, Trevor Lawrence wasn't playing, but they can. Obviously, it was shown that they can do something. And also with the second game, Alan, what were your predictions?
All right, so I think this is going to be less of a high-scoring game. I think it's going to be 35-10 Clemson. I think it really depends on if Justin Fields is back, because I know he had a thumb injury in his last game. But if he's healthy to go, if they can do anything against the Clemson defense, which is still really good, I think Clemson's going to score probably 30 pretty early on and then just not do much the rest of the game. I could see Clemson scoring a lot more, but I see them going up 21-0 and then only scoring 14 points the rest of the game. I don't think Ohio State has much of a chance to hang. What are your predictions, Ben? Because I know this prediction has flipped from last time we talked about them.
I know. Last week I was counting Ohio State for not, doing this and that, and they're not worthy. But I was looking back at last year, and I was like, hang on, didn't Clemson and Ohio State come together again? And then they go against each other? And then Ohio State, they were leading coming out of halftime, but then they fell short. You know what? I said, you know what? I'm gonna take my chances, and I said 42-40 Ohio State. The only reason why I'm saying this is because I think that, I don't know. It was just I was thinking, Allen's always got Alabama, Clemson, and again, it would be like for like the fifth time in the past like 6 years, because I think only like once they didn't meet. And that was with LSU. So you know what? I'm taking my chances. I think that Clemson, and I want an Ohio State Notre Dame playoff. I think it will be eventful. And finally, it would not include Alabama and or Clemson. Props to both for scouting and building up a great program. But you know what? I'm a I'm gonna go Ohio State. I want Ohio State versus Notre Dame, but I think it's gonna be Ohio State Alabama.
You don't
That's
think
me.
this. You just hope it's going to happen because you were tired of seeing Alabama and Clemson, which we all realize is probably going to happen. And Ben is just bored of seeing the same teams. So he's disrespecting Clemson with their number one quarterback.
Yes, I think about it though. It was the Cavaliers versus Warriors in the NBA. You always see that in the NFL. The Patriots were always in the Super Bowl. I'm starting to blank. In MLB it's been a mixture in the past couple of years. But you know what? Think about it. It could be eventful. It could be great. It could be cool.
Is that going to happen though?
Probably not, but I'm taking my chances. I just hear me out on this. Justin Fields goes off. All right.
I don't know about that.
Ohio State defense can hold up, will stop Clemson, maybe just for a drive, and then their offense would score, and then they'll have a chance possibly. Just hear me out. Just. I want them.
I'll give you there's a chance.
Mm-hmm. It's a slim chance, but there's a chance.
I think it's slimmer than slim, but yeah, there is a 1% chance that it is not Alabama and Clemson.
Hey, man. If the Jets can win 2 games, anything can happen. It's 2020.
All right, but those are NFL teams.
Well, no, it's going to be 2021, so start off the new year kind of wonky, wouldn't it?
It would be 2021. These games are happening on New Year's Day, so that is true.
Yeah. Tune into those games to watch it. But in that case, ladies and gentlemen, this has been our podcast. This has been the lunch table. Me and my friend Alan, we are going to sign out. But before we do, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Give
hit
a
the like button.
Yes. Share your comments or whatnot that you have on the show. And we will see you later.
Have a good day, guys.